The beginning of your fitness journey can be a magical time, a time where it can be easy to add 10, 15 or even 20 pounds of muscle mass to your frame. And as you can imagine, this is enough to make a noticeable difference in your physique. In fact, if you take advantage of these newbie gains, you can expect to achieve more muscle growth in your first 12 months than your next 4 years combined. This is due to our bodies being hyper to the newly introduced stimulus during the beginning stages of our training. Unfortunately, this magical period in your training will come to an end. Results that once took you 4 weeks could now take you 4 months. And building 5 pounds of muscle in 1 year as opposed to the 15 pounds of muscle you put on previously is going to be much harder to notice when you're staring in the mirror every day. That is, of course, unless you focus your efforts on the 3 key muscles. Muscles that create the illusion of a bigger, more well-developed physique. Adding 5 pounds of muscle in these areas has the same effect as putting on 10 to 15 pounds across your entire body in terms of visual impact. Now, although you're probably already training these 3 muscles, it's likely they're not being prioritized or trained in a manner that will produce the maximum result. In this video, I not only want to share the 3 key muscles that make you look bigger and more jacked, but I want to go over the best exercises for building them up as fast as possible. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Number 1, neck and traps. I'm pairing these two together, as most people who have well-developed traps also tend to have a well-developed neck. Having big traps is a direct sign of being stronger and more masculine, and there's a strong scientific reason for this. Let's look at steroid users, for example. The rate at which their traps grow is typically much faster than that of any other muscle group by far. This is because your traps have very high levels of androgen receptors, meaning that larger traps are normally a sign of higher testosterone levels. Here's an example of former UFC light heavyweight Vitor Belfort. Notice the visible difference in the peak of his traps and width of his neck. Big traps not only give you a more masculine appearance from the front, but also looks extremely powerful from the back and sides. Apart from your traps, having a small neck is one of those things that is often overlooked until it's viewed in isolation. For example, here's a picture of me followed by the same picture, this time with some neck reduction. Not only does this make me appear far less masculine, but it gives me the appearance of a large head and a small frame. Not good. So if you're struggling to build your neck, despite having big traps, direct work could help. But first, let's talk about which exercises are going to hit both muscle groups effectively. The traps are divided into the upper, middle and lower fibers, but we are going to focus mostly on the mid and upper fibers as they provide the biggest visual impact. The main function of the upper traps is shoulder elevation or shrugging, and the mid traps are responsible for retraction of the scapula, pulling your shoulder blades back. My go-to exercise to hit both the neck and traps at the same time are deadlifts, but chances are you're probably already including this movement in your training. That said, there's one other exercise that I recommend to anyone struggling to build their neck in traps, despite already performing heavy deadlifts. Because the main function of the upper traps is shoulder elevation, it's no surprise that our primary movement would be a shrug. That said, research has proven that having your arms in a degree of abduction, rather than directly at your sides, leads to a greater degree of upper trap activation. That's why I recommend a snatch grip. Barbell shrug where you are leaning slightly forward. Although the exercise is quite simple to perform, there are a few mistakes you must avoid when performing a barbell shrug. For starters, gripping the bar at shoulder width as you would on a traditional shrug while standing completely upright is going to limit the amount of upper trap activation. Another classic mistake is failing to control the weight on the eccentric portion of the lift. Sure, this may allow you to lift a bit more weight. But you're far better off using a weight you can handle in order to maximize muscle growth while reducing the risk of injury. To ensure you are maximizing your results with this movement, make sure you are gripping the bar at a width where it sits right at the top of the pubic bone. When standing upright, lean your torso slightly forward. And shrug the bar up and inward as if you are trying to touch your shoulders to your ears. Control the weight on the way down and initiate the rep once your arms are completely straight and the traps are fully lengthened. Now if you add these into your training and still see little to no success with your neck growth, it's time to try some direct work. For now, give those a shot and see how it goes. Number 2. Shoulders. In my opinion, your shoulders are possibly the most important of the 3 key muscle groups. Shoulders, particularly the mid-delts, make a massive impact on the size and width of the top of your frame. For overall delt development, your goal should be to get stronger at the overhead press. It trains all 3 heads of the delt effectively and is very easy to load. Another simple but overlooked tip is to increase your training frequency. If you're currently only training your delts once per week, try including a second session. And although the overhead press should be the focal point of your shoulder training, it's critical that we target the mid-delts directly as they are most responsible for adding width to your frame. When it comes to direct mid-delt work, most people will perform a few sets of dumbbell lateral raises at the end of their workouts in hopes of building rounder shoulders. Unfortunately, the traditional lateral raise alone may not get the job done. The issue with the traditional dumbbell lateral raise is that it has a pretty poor resistance profile. There's little to no tension at the bottom of the rep and a lot of tension from roughly 30 to 90 degrees of abduction. This rough resistance profile means that the muscle is getting targeted mostly in its shortened range and not in its lengthened range, which is why I recommend including some Egyptian lateral raises to further stimulate the mid-delts. The Egyptian lateral raise accounts for one problem that the dumbbell version can't fix: resistance profile. Because the mid-delts are more involved during the end of the range of motion and less in the beginning, leaning away allows for better isolation of the mid-delts. To perform this exercise, set the cable pulley at the bottom. Place the leg of the side you are training slightly in front of the other to allow the cable to pass through. This mitigates any chance of the cable hitting your body and also leads to a straighter line of force. Remember, what makes this exercise size powerful is the ability to lean away, so make sure your legs are set close enough to the pulley to allow you to do so. And last but not least, number 3, the lats. The lats, also referred to as wings, aid in the creation of the aesthetic V-taper, giving the strong illusion of a narrow waist. The lats are a massive muscle group running all the way from the lumbar spine, inserting into the humerus. They essentially wrap your back like a Christmas present. The lats have a few functions, but the main ones we are going to be concerned with are shoulder extension, bringing your arm behind your body, and shoulder abduction, bringing your elbow in toward your ribs. Don't get me wrong, barbell rows and deadlifts are great overall back builders and in a lot of cases will be enough to build your lats. That said, if your upper back is well developed but the lats are lagging behind, start performing your barbell rows with an underhand grip. This will force you to keep your elbows closer to your body, making for better lat activation. And if you really want to take your lats to the next level, start including heavy vertical pulling movements such as weighted pull-ups, chin-ups, or lat pull-downs. Because these movements target the lats in their length and range, you'll be hitting the lat near the insertion point of the humerus, further amplifying the V-taper. So there you have it, the 3 muscle groups that you need to focus on if you want to take your physique to the next level. Hitting these muscles like I suggested is going to not only make you look bigger and stronger, but also more masculine and perhaps even more attractive. Did you find this video helpful? If so, click the like button below as it'll truly help out the channel. Make sure you subscribe for more videos and don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next one.